Peh-Yod verbs refer to verb roots where Peh or Yod is the first root letter. And we need to consider this. They're a little bit challenging at first. We'll first begin by looking at the perfect forms and compare it to the perfect form in the strong verb. Now, in the case of yeshav, he sat or he dwelt, it's exactly the same. There's no issue at all. However, in the nifal, in hifil, we see a bit of a change. Namely, while there are some true Peh-Yod verbs, there's a few. Many of them are Peh-Vav verbs, and it only comes out in the nifal stem or the hifil. So in this case, we see noshav or hoshiv. And so the what appeared to be a yod comes to its true character as a vav in the nifal or the hifil. That's something to be aware of and pay attention to as we go along. We'll also want to take a look at the imperfect form and the imperative form, and we'll compare this to our paradigm word, yiktol, he will kill. And we chop off the prefix pronoun, and we have katol, kill, exclamation point. And very similarly, yeshav, and in the imperfect, there's a competition for the beginning of the word, and the prefix pronoun always wins. So in the case of a Peh-Yod verb, there's a tsere, which is the telltale sign of a yod had been there and is pushed out of the way by the prefix pronoun. So he will sit, and the tsere is our compensatory lengthening, I suppose we would say. Now when we chop off the prefix pronoun of the imperfect, it leaves us with shave, sit, exclamation point. So there's our command form. And we'll need to look at the vav consecutive imperfects compared to our paradigm word, vaiktol. Vayeshev, we can see the tsere under the prefix pronoun, which shows us this is not shuv, this is not to turn or return, but this is from yeshav. And so it is that tsere under the prefix pronoun, which is our indicator of the Peh-Yod verb in this case. And if we look at the hifil, we have vayikatel, and that dagesh forte in the first root letter is the nun of the stem nifal assimilated, and he will be killed. And in the case of the Peh-Yod, again in the nifal, the true character of the peh letter comes out, and it's a vav. And so we can see the dagesh forte in the vav. So there's a doubling of the vav here, which gives us an indicator of the nifal. So vayiv ashev, and that's the nifal vav consecutive imperfect of yeshav. And finally, for the hifil in the strong verb, vayaktel. Now, in the vav consecutive imperfect, the hirik yod assimilates, or apocopates, it contracts into a tsere. So, our normal indicator of the hifil stem is the ptak under the prefix pronoun. And so then we can see this as, and he caused to kill. Little challenging here, but in the Peh-Yod verb, vayoshav, we see that, again, in the hifil, the true character of the peh letter comes out as a vav, and in this case, since it's a hifil, it's going to lengthen to a holam vav, vayoshav. So, a little getting used to, but keeping in mind maybe three things as takeaways from this overview is, remember the tsere under the prefix pronoun is in the kal a sign of a Peh-Yod verb, that the root letter was first root letter was Yod, and that in the nifal and hifil, there the first root letter, when it's a vav, that's where we see it as a vav, and only in the nifal and the hifil stems. And the difference between them can be seen by the nun assimilating or not. I would again encourage you to work hard on your vocabulary memorization, especially for the common words. That'll go a long way to solving our parsing and reading issues. Here's an example from Genesis 11:5. Vayered Hashem lirot et ha'ir v'et hamigdal asher banu banei ha'adam. The subject here is the Lord. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of the human being were building. Vayered comes from Yod, Resh, Dalet, to go down. Now, in this case, we have a kal stem, and it's a vav consecutive imperfect 3ms. And the indicator here, or the thing to look for, is the tsere under the prefix pronoun shows us that this is a Peh-Yod verb, and that's the normal way it's going to look in the kal for a vav consecutive imperfect narrative form, vayered, and he came down. Another example in Genesis 9:23. Vayelachu achol ranit vayachasu et ervat avihem. The subject here is Shem and Japheth. And they walked backward, and they covered the nakedness of their father. Here's another weak form, vayachasu. This comes from kaf samek he. So it's a lamed he verb, and we can see that it's in the PL. It's in the PL. It's vav consecutive imperfect 3MP, and they covered. Now this is the verb in question, and here we're also missing another root letter. In this case, we can see the tsere under the prefix pronoun. So we would normally say that's a he, a vav, but this is actually a he. Halach functions as though it were a Peh-Yod verb. So we just have to remember this very common word, halach. The he functions as though it were a yod, and so we have the appearance of a tsere under the prefix pronoun. So this is a kal, vav consecutive imperfect, 3MP, and they walked. Psalm 78:16. Vayotzi nodzalim misala vayored kanacharot maim. And he caused to go out streams from the rock, and he caused it to go down like rivers of water. Vayotzi comes from Yod, Tzare, Aleph. Well, it's a doubly weak word, but we'll just worry about part of this for now. Now we can see that the Holam Vav, the Vav comes out in this conjugation, so we can tell it's a hifil because of the nature of it. In the hifil, the true nature of the Peh-Yod verb comes out. And this is a Vav consecutive imperfect 3ms. And one other interesting thing in this case is we do have the hierik from the hiphil and the quiescing of the aleph. Now the second line also has this word which we'll want to look at, vayored. Now again, this comes from Yod, Resh, Dalet, and we can see the Holam Vav, so this tells us this is the hiphil stem, Vav consecutive, imperfect, 3ms. He caused to go down. So again, in the hiphil, the Yod kind of reverts to its true form, the Vav. Not in the Kal, only in the hiphil, in the Nifal. And an illustration from Exodus chapter 6, verse 3. Va'era el Abraham, el Yitzhak, va'el Yaakov, ba'el Shaddai, u'shami Hashem lo nodati lahem. The verse begins here. This is a speech of the Lord to Moses. Va'era, this is from ra'ah, to see, and we can see the tsere under the prefix pronoun. So this is a lengthened to a tsere because it's a nifal form. So we have, I guess we would literally say, and I was seen. But we usually, instead of saying I was seen, we usually just say I appeared. And I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as El Shaddai, the God Most High. But my name, Hashem, by it, here's the negative, I was not known to them. The whole idea here is, of course, much discussed since the divine name is used in Genesis, but so also is El Shaddai. We'll not worry about that for right now. We'll just focus on our parsing. And here we have nodati, and in this case, this comes from Vav, Dalet, Ayin, to know. And what we can see is it's in the nifal, and we have the nun from the stem, and that causes the yod to show its true character as a vav. It reverts to the vav in the nifal. So we have a nifal stem, and this is the perfect form 1cs. I was not known.